Welcome to Evergreen Speedway's Home Track Heroes on CW11.
Welcome into Home Track Heroes here for 2023. Glad to have you back with us. It's been a long off season, but it's time. It's time to get going once again. We're so glad that you've tuned in here on a Sunday. My name is Caleb Hart. He's Greg Pyland. And Greg, long off season over. It's time to do things. Let's have cars go in circles.
That's right, yeah. As soon as we get into April, we know it's about time to go racetrack driving again. And so it's pretty exciting to see this come back around. And should be a wonderful night here once again back at Evergreen Speedway.
Weather suboptimal to start out 2023. However, that was kind of the story of the early season last year, and you anticipate a lot of these same drivers and teams are going to be equipped up and kind of have a battle plan coming into what was a soggy night of racing.
And I think it'll be really interesting to see. We know how hard all of these teams work, but here's a first chance to prove it for some of these divisions that are out for the first time in 2023. So very excited to see all the work, all the new paint schemes, everything like that they've worked up over the offseason and get out to a little bit of racing here.
I'll tell you what, this is the season lid lifter. It's Monroe Grocery Outlet season opener night. And one of the things I always look forward to is seeing who's come back, who is back, what champions have returned to defend their titles, who's moved up and gone forward, and really the season points championship chase starts right now. Every point matters. You were the guy who was keeping track of all this and had to talk about your champions last year. You know how tight some of those races came down, and races here in April are going to play a big factor come September.
And we saw so much, and especially during the middle of the season, even sometimes into the later portion of the season, but drivers that weren't able to make it, they had to have somebody else come in and drive their car for points too, because you're exactly right, Caleb. All of the points early on in the season, they matter towards the end of the season when everybody's chasing that ultimate trophy.
Well, we're going to give out some main event trophies coming up. But the first on our agenda tonight, we're going to get the Interstate Battery Hornets going for a B feature. We'll have their B and their A main tonight. We've also got Stinger 8s, Outlaw Figure 8s, and mini stocks on the program. So welcome into Home Track Heroes. Sit back, relax, enjoy, crack a cold one, and let's get our first main event on the track. It's the B feature for the Interstate Battery Hornets. They're going to go 15 times around. The top 4 finishers have the option to go up to the back of the A main event, which is coming up next on our program. Let's take a look at your starting lineup. Front row for this 15-lappers, the 48 of Trinity DeRosal. She's sponsored by CR Gutters. And next to Trinity, it's Hunter Jenkins, the Elite Construction Contractors, number 85.
And we have Sage Frazier in the number 12, sponsored by Elk Heights Excavation, and the number 4, Ron Powers.
Row number 3, Scarlett Fisher in the 19 car back with us in 2023. Carly Croft going to be next to Scarlett. Carly is driving the 5 car. There we go.
And the driver that shall not be named, the 28X, in the next row back in number 4 spot. And then on the outside is the 32 Preston Brandt, sponsored by North County Towing.
One of those drivers we talked up made a move up. A youth Hornet last year, an adult Hornet this year for Preston. Row behind them, Jason Cowles, 33C, Millwright at PCA Wallula, and Dan Miller, the 00, running a B main tonight, the Exterior Wall Systems Inc. sponsored car.
And in our last row, sponsored by Turbo Espresso, it's the 77 of Christian Miller. On the outside, the 07 of Zach Bristol. Some
drivers that were up in the top 5, main event winners, etc., all in the back of this first B main event of the season. And again, a damp night at Evergreen Speedway. But hey, you live in Western Washington in April, you're going to have that. You're going to run in the wet every once in a while.
And they had plenty of opportunities last year to test out their skills driving in the rain. They're going to get it here again tonight as we see them coming around this final turn before hopefully the green flag will fly. For the first time here, 2023 Evergreen Speedways. They come around down the front stretch, looking to our main man, Jonathan Peterson, up in the flag stand, and it looks like green flag flies, and we're off racing.
That's right. So one of the things with the Hornet division, this is a 4-cylinder basic entry class. There's not a whole lot of modifications that you can make to the cars themselves, and we try to run them on a different course every night. That way they get quite the variety. Tonight they run the traditional road course, and well, somebody's into the inside tires in turn number 1 off the very beginning.
That's the number 19 of Scarlett Fisher, so having some issues there on that first turn as you were talking about, kind of a modified course here as they're running around. And there's some more issues there into turn 3 or 4 and multiple cars here going sideways as we see Hunter Jenkins in the 85 just cruising right now with the number 4 of Ron Powers right behind.
Powers, a new car, at least to my point of view, as somebody is hanging out in one of the puddles down on the inside of corner number 4, just chilling. So it's Powers in second, chasing around the 85 of Jenkins, and running third. That should be Rosal in the 48. So far, your top 3.
And Jenkins coming out to a good lead here. Powers sticking up with him, but they're starting to get some separation between themselves and the 48 of Trinity Rosal. But just doing a good job. And we saw this a lot last year when there was rain on the course, rain on the track. the more experienced drivers are going to be staying to that high side, staying away from those puddles, and that's exactly what the 85 of Hunter Jenkins is doing right now.
One of those deals where car control and maybe slow down to speed up just a little bit is keeping the car underneath you and not going skittering off into the turns and losing a bunch of spots is going to be big. As we've got to move for third, I want to say that's Zach Bristol already working his way up into a top 3. Nice run, Zach.
That is. Zach started on the outside of the last row here on the start, and we see him already up into third as we see Powers giving Jenkins a little bit of a run for his money there as they come across, but what a great run early on by the 07 of Zach Bristol as he's made his way up all the way into that third spot.
He's got that familiar Havoline, Davey Allison-esque paint job on the car this year with pink duct tape numbers as he peeks to the inside, looking for another position to come up and through the pack. Bristol is also a self-professed lover of racing in the rain, and he's very good at it. Best night in the mini stock last year was a second-place performance trying to chase down Lane Sunholm, and he was a very, very strong factor anytime there was wet weather out there.
Ran a lot of different divisions. A lot of fun to see Zach Bristol racing in different divisions out here at Evergreen Speedway.
Well, we've got a caution that's come out on the racetrack for the 12 car, so our first chance to jump back into the booth and, again, tell you guys this is the B feature for the Interstate Batteries Adult Hornet Division, running the road course. Top 4 finishers moving up to the back of the A main event, which is always an adventure. Full field, 30 laps for these very same cars.
And it's so exciting, like you said, to see the top 4. There's so much that goes into this B main because those drivers want to get up into this A main, and it goes back to what you were talking about earlier. Those points mean so much as we are back now to the track and looking for a restart here.
Restack them and re-rack them as they roll their way slowly coming out of the third corner. Once again, out in front, Hunter Jenkins has controlled the narrative. Ron Powers on the outside, the white and blue number 4, and that is Zach Bristol in third with Trinity Rosal in the 4th spot as we're back to action.
And great move there by the 4 of Ron Powers going to the inside right before that hard left-hander, and that's going to push the 85 of Jenkins back into that second spot, as we see Zach Bristol now passing by the 48 of Trinity Rosal, getting back into that 3rd spot after that restart, but great move there by the 4 of Ron Powers.
Here on Home Track Heroes, got your first look at the drone shot from Aiden Walker as they came through the corner. Nice look from there. Thank you for the picture as battle for second. Bristol looping up and through, trying to get around Jenkins. Jenkins running them hard through the intersection as they make their way to the first corner.
We see Bristol going to the wide side, Jenkins on the low side in that hard left-hander as we see them continuing to battle for that second spot. The edge and the advantage going right now to the 07. That's Zach Bristol as they come down the backstretch into turn 3, and we see Jenkins now falling a little bit further behind, and we talked about it earlier, staying on that high side, working out very well for the 07.
This is actually strategy from the 07 of Bristol, and it's something that he has talked about before, and we've seen a lot of experienced rain racers talk about before. Water running downhill, it pools at the bottom of the track. You stay up around the high side, you're much less likely to hit standing water or a puddle. It's actually a more secure drive, albeit the long way around the racetrack.
See the 77 now coming into frame, Christian Miller. So Christian also starting towards the back of the pack. He is now up into that 4th and final transfer spot here right behind the 85 of Hunter Jenkins as we see Bristol now battling with the 4 of Ron Powers, and Bristol taking over that first place spot.
Way to go, Zach Bristol, as we are working our way towards the conclusion here of this B feature. He's your new leader as he loops out of the corner down the back straightaway and already opening it up on Powers. Powers still a transfer car in the 4. Christian Miller up into a transfer spot in the 77, and our 4th place runner is your final transfer, who's just out of screen at the moment. We'll pick that up here in a couple of seconds when we can see him again.
And man, look at the 07 right now. Zach Bristol just on a tear. You know, was battling there between him and the 4 of Ron Powers. Now Powers falling off just a little bit as we see Bristol now making his way into that hard left-hand turn, going towards the backstretch of this track. But just great job there by Zach Bristol, and Christian Miller there now just coming into the backside of the frame, still holding off the 85 of Hunter Jenkins, but Bristol now pulling far away from that 4 of Ron Powers.
Cruising up and around the high side of the racetrack, especially in turn 3 and 4, and you can see the sheer car speed that he's got, the security and the ability to put the pedal to the floor through most of the track that's helping him open it up over Powers. Powers' long advantage for second as we'll glance back at racing a little further in the field. The 19 in your screen is driven by Scarlett Fisher. We saw her with a snafu earlier on, chasing around, trying to find the numbers on that door. Whoever that is got to darken them up a little bit.
I think that was 00 of Dan Miller, and I was just about to make a comment, Caleb. I don't often see working windshield wipers, and I saw Dan Miller's windshield wipers actually working, so that was kind of impressive.
Ooh, look out. Sage Frazier getting a little sideways as Bristol comes around. One of the things Dan had talked about during his off-season build was nights like this and racing in the wet weather where he has struggled with fog on his windshield. One of those things where you haven't tried to figure out how to get some air to your windshield, maybe a heater or a blower, and apparently not quite enough tonight. He's got to work with the windshield wipers.
There's another shot there of the 77 of Christian Miller, still behind the 4 of Ron Powers. And it looks like that's Sage Frazier not in that final transfer spot. That's still going to be outside of Sage Frazier's catch right now. But another youth Hornet that we've seen move up into this Hornet B main. So exciting to see the progress some of the young drivers making out here at Evergreen Speedway.
A lot of those youth Hornets are going to age out, go from 14 years old, and you got to go up at that point. Don't have to do anything different on the race car. It's literally just running a different course from what you do. So belt in, buckle up, and go compete with the adults now on a little bit bigger, faster, longer trek around the raceway.
And there's Christian Miller getting a little bit loose. He had the inside on the 4 of Ron Powers. Powers sticking to that outside and able to maintain a little bit more speed out of that final turn before they cross the start-finish line.
Both your second and third place drivers got the windshield wipers going. You
Yeah,
see
there
it
you go.
as they're coming in through the corners. We'll duck around, and Sage Frazier windshield wipers going as well. Unfortunately, not helping a whole heck of a lot as Sage having a rough race in the rain here on our very first night on Home Track Heroes.
And back to your leader, the 07 Zach Bristol, coming across the start-finish line as just a few laps here remain for the 07. Once again, top 4, able to transfer up to the A main that will be happening later on. And so we'll see if Zach Bristol obviously looks like very good position right now. Ron Powers, Christian Miller, second and third spot here as we continue to watch the 07 of Zach Bristol down the backstretch into that turn, but staying on that line, and you know nobody's catching up with him. He doesn't have to do anything crazy right now.
No, take it easy, no risk, especially coming into the back of the pack. As you see the white flag in the air, indicates for those of you who are catching your very first auto race ever, white flag one more time around whatever course that you're on. And Bristol, the leader of the pack so far, looking for the transfer position.
Bristol now going to come to the high side of the backstretch as they go down. Just about a half a lap remaining here as we see a little bit of lap traffic going to get in the way, but Bristol's going to stay on the high side as he comes into maybe modified 3 and 4. There's a 77 of Christian Miller and Ron Powers battling out as they go down the backstretch, and the checkered flag is going to fly, and it's going to go to the 07 of Zach Bristol, first place in this Hornet B main event for this evening. Second place is going to be the 4 of Ron Powers. Then we have the 77 coming up right now. It's going to be Christian Miller taking that third spot. And your fourth and final potential transfer spot is going to be the 85 of Hunter Jenkins.
We got more coming up. You got the Hornet A main coming up next here on Home Track Heroes on the CW11. We are back. It is time for the Interstate Batteries Hornet A main event here on Home Track Heroes on the CW11. Caleb Hart, Greg Pyland at Evergreen Speedway. And as much fun as the B main was, let's up the ante. Let's, I don't know, pack a whole bunch more cars in there. 19 starters. Let's go 30 laps. It's going to be a good time.
It's going to be a great time. Love to see this many cars out on this road course. Should be a great A main event that we have coming up next. We're going to be heading out to the track here, and we will give you the starting order as they start to come across the line here.
All right, Chuck Fisher has earned the pole for the first main event of the season. He's in the 06. Next to him, that is Tammy White in the 23.
Then we have the 85X of Eric Armstrong, and sponsored by Misfit Motorsports, it's the Shark, Tegan Bjornson in the 59.
717, one of our Youth Hornet move-ups, Diesel Snyder, the Hair Ink Machine. Next to him, Garrett Kramer in the 88. Northwest Security and Sound, the sponsor on that car.
Next row back, fourth row, we have the 16D of Brady Smith on the outside, sponsored by True Line Wheel and Frame. It's the 101 of Brian McNamara.
Matt Snyder drives the Hair Inc. 15 car. He starts in the 9th position. Brad Gruel is the G2. Brad starts in P10.
And then out there all by himself, the 17S of Gino Solomon. Next row back, it's going to be the 49 of Calvin Miller, sponsored by Northwest Poly Services. And on the outside is going to be the 81 of Bobby Fisher, sponsored by North Sound Fence.
What a row behind them. It is Trent Gillespie, the multiple-time feature winner over the years in the 025. He's sponsored by Burger Madness, and right next to him, the defending champ, Ryan Hausenfluck in the Cornerstone Homes, number 33.
And we see some of our transfers here. We have the 07 Zach Bristol, sponsored by PMS Power Decals. On the outside of Zach is the 4 of Ron Powers.
And final row, Christian Miller, 77, sponsored by Turbo Espresso. Next to him, Hunter Jenkins, the Elite Construction Contractors, number 85. 19 cars, 30 times around, and they are following the brand new and beautiful Speedway Chevrolet Camaro. That is our Evergreen Speedway pace car here for 2023. Nice looking ride.
That's the one that I think I've never been able to drive. I'm not sure I could fit inside of it anyways, But I want to drive that thing around. It looks maybe a little bit too fast for me, somebody that drives a slow car, but man, that looks fun.
They don't legally allow me to drive Camaros anymore. There was an incident back in East Wenatchee in about, 2004. It was a bad thing for everybody. Let's move on and forget I ever said anything. So front row, Fisher sitting there. He has got the catbird seat. Right next to him, the 23 of Tammy White. And pressure's going to be on them. You know, this is a division that we regularly see drivers making the haul all the way from those back rows. You know, your two fastest cars in this field in Gillespie and Hausenfluck are starting 15th and 16th on the field. And nobody is going to be shocked at the end of 30 laps that they haven't made it up there. So your front row guys, a lot of pressure to set a wicked pace and get so far out that those fastest guys in the back of the field can't get to them.
And even in the middle of the field, too, you got Bobby Fischer, you got Christian Miller, you have Ryan Hausenfluck, so a lot of danger there, too, right in the middle of the pack as we come out of that final turn as we head towards looking for the green flag. It is flying, and we are off and racing in this Interstate Batteries Hornet A main event, and great jump there. It's like a great battle there between Tammy White, but it's the 06 Chuck Fisher taking that early lead as they come around that first hard left-hand turn.
It was interesting to see if Bjornsson swinging out of line was going to carry a bunch of momentum through the intersection and try to cut the corner off, but as is, Tegan going to hang out in fourth, makes the big bold move to the inside. Tegan Bjornsson in the gray with blue 59, now sitting third, looking to come to the completion of the first lap.
And Diesel Snyder also another, so both Tegan and Diesel, a couple of graduates of the Youth Hornet program, and we see them battling as we see Diesel Snyder getting a little bit loose there side by side with Tammy White. Right behind is the 88, so that's going to be Garrett Kramer, and there goes the 81, Bobby Fischer. I hate to see that spinning around.
Man, 2 years ago, Bobby Fischer, if he didn't have bad luck, he had no luck at all, and unfortunately 2023 not starting out so great as he gets her sideways in the intersection and now has a lot of ground to make up. So far, though, Chuck Fisher cruising, and this is what you got to do if you got the pole. Get out and rabbit. Get as much space between you and the rest of the field as possible because, you want those fast guys not only to have to pass cars, but make up distance at the same time.
And that's, a little bit of what we saw in that B main event. Zach Bristol, when he was able to take over coming from the back of the field, getting up into the front, he just started running away from it. And that appears to be what Chuck Fisher is doing now, but it's a long race in this A main event, so we'll see if the 06 can hang on.
It's good timing mentioning Bristol as you're watching him follow around Ryan Hausenfluck. Both of them have picked up about 5 cars here so far in the early going. There's another look at them coming off of that fourth corner and into the intersection. We'll duck ahead. Diesel Snyder leading the pack in the 717. Sitting about 4 spots away from the lead at this point. As he's behind Bjornsson, who is in third. Trying to chase him down. You see the blue 49. Calvin Miller, one of those diversity drivers, has been good in a lot of different race cars. He is extra good in the 4-cylinder variety and already up into 6th, looking to make his way to 5th coming off this turn.
Calvin Miller trying to get around the 717 of Diesel Snyder. We have the 16D Brady Smith on the inside as they come through the intersection. Looks like still the 85X holding on to that second spot. That is Eric Armstrong as he's still holding off Tegan Bjornsson as they come out of that hard left-hand turn heading towards the backstretch. But right now you can't even see Chuck Fisher. That's how far out in front he is as we see Calvin Miller now making that jump.
Miller has made a big move up the pack. Unfortunately for him, he is bringing Ryan Hausenfluck right with him. So Hausenfluck from a 16th starting position outside row number 8 inside the top 10 and trying to get forward. There's Miller again up in the back of Smith. Smith playing bumper tag with Bjornsson. They're side by side for 4th.
Great battle there in that battle for 4th. Calvin Miller having to go a little bit wide there as Brady Smith in the 16D takes the low side. There's another shot of Chuck Fisher, your leader, as we have a few laps down here. Still a lot of racing ahead of us. Kind of towards the back of your screen there you see, as you talked about, Zach Bristol coming out of that hard turn. There's the 33. Ryan Hausenfluck coming off of that turn as well. So great battle here. There goes Calvin Miller side by side with Tegan Bjornsson as they come into that hard left-hand turn. Brady Smith, though, doing a great job hanging on to that position and trying now to get around the 85X of Eric Armstrong.
And looks like he's going to have the pass working down to the inside. So Brady moving himself forward and gathering the runner-up spot on the agenda as Bristol back to that high side through 3 and 4, looking for dry pavement to race on up there, and he's going to make a pretty bold move getting into the intersection, and look at the speed that he carried in getting around Bjornsson into the cross-section of the track.
And another driver that's coming up that we haven't mentioned quite yet is the 025. That's Trent Gillespie. Gillespie now right behind Tegan Bjornsson, trying to make a pass on the low side, but he's been traveling up with Zach Bristol and Calvin Miller, and now we see Trent Gillespie now just tucking behind Bjornsson as they come into the turn number 3, turn number 4. He's going to be on the low side, though, 3 wide as they come into turn number 4. Calvin Miller with a slide edge, and there goes Brady Smith across the start-finish line.
And Brady Smith has picked up the lead as you look at it, as Chuck Fisher dropped the top spot. So Brady Smith, now your race leader, coming out of the turn onto the back straightaway and stretching the advantage. So lead change up in the top, just 7 laps into this, and now it's Smith's turn to try to get away and run from everybody and hope that Fisher makes it tough on everybody else trying to get past him as we'll look back to the battle for third. Or sorry, a little bit further back at the back. That might be about 5th and 6th.
So Gillespie and Bjornsson battling side by side as we continue to stay with them. The 025, Trent Gillespie and Tegan Bjornsson, the Shark, in the 59. There's the 85X of Eric Armstrong back behind the 33 of Ryan Hassenfluck. They're making that hard left-hand turn. Gillespie now trying to work to the low side. Great move there on the 85X of Eric Armstrong. Able to make that pass on through, and that's going to be up into 5th as it sits right now. So great move there by Trent Gillespie.
That is a new to him race car here on the year, as you had seen him drive something a little more sedan looking like. Now he's got the hatchback, trying to roll in and around already into the top 5 as this is going to get intense. You see that car in between Zach Bristol and Brady Smith. That is a lapped car of Tammy White. So here comes Zach Bristol now from the B main all the way into second. Let's see if he can reel in Smith for the top spot in the lead, bringing some other fast guys with him.
So Bristol now coming into the turn, as is Calvin Miller. In the back, you see the 33 of Ryan Hassenfluck right behind him, Trent Gillespie. But great shot here of Calvin Miller as he comes across the start-finish line. They are catching up to the 16B of Brady Smith. As we see Ryan Hassenfluck going sideways, not hitting a puddle, but just having some issues there, trying to slow down as they come into that turn, and he locked him up and went sideways.
Wow, Ryan Hassenfluck, your defending champion, now with some work to do to catch back up. It's like he rolled through an oil slick. And speaking of oil, this segment brought to you by Bardall Manufacturing, located in Seattle. They're a world leader in automotive lubricants with oils, additives, and lubricants for your car, truck, boat, or motorized toy. Pick the brand racers around the world rely on. Bardall, celebrating over 82 years in business and operating in 90 countries. Make Bardall your brand.
Great shot there of the 717 of Diesel Snyder, the 88 of Garrett Kramer as they come across the start-finish line. There we see Ryan Hassenfluck able to recover a little bit, but they are a ways back here as we're focused in once again on the 06 Chuck Fisher. But Fisher has slid back into that 5th spot as here comes Bobby Fisher trying to catch up, take over that 5th spot, and back to the 07 of Zach Bristol and Calvin Miller.
That's going to be an interesting battle as both of them sneaking down in on Smith. Smith, Bristol, Miller occupying top spots on this racetrack, and Miller narrowing up on Bristol lap after lap. See what kind of move he can make, and you can see Miller kind of following the same line that Bristol has been championing around the outside of 3 and 4. It's given him lots of good drive through the weight transfer portion of the course. The drivers have to slow up just enough to get the car to turn right and then turn a very, very sharp left to get around that corner. The drivers who carry the most speed in through there tend to be the most successful coming through this field.
And if you're Brady Smith right now, there's nobody you want to see back coming up behind you, but I think that there's probably fewer people he would rather see coming up. The 07 Zach Bristol, the 49 Calvin Miller. So fast. We saw already Zach Bristol being very successful in the B main, and now they are right on the back bumper of Brady Smith and trying to take an inside look there on the turn, but good job there by the 16D of Brady Smith to come down and block.
Smith lost a lot of the advantage that he had. The back end kind of swam on him coming off the bottom of turn number 4 the last time by, looking to rebuild that lead. If he can do it, might have a new second place car coming after him as Miller pinched Bristol down to the inside of the track, and at the line he'll have second. You got a new runner-up coming after your leader in Calvin Miller, the blue and white 49.
Great job there by the 49 Calvin Miller, able to get around Zach Bristol in the 07 as they make that turn heading towards the backstretch. So as you said, Brady Smith, then we have Calvin Miller, then we have Zach Bristol. Trent Gillespie still in that 4th spot in the 025, currently out of frame, but we'll see if there he comes in that, as you mentioned earlier, that sharp new car for the 025. But Brady Smith doing a great job in that 16D, hanging on here with 15 laps down, 15 laps to go.
That's right. Halfway marker hits. There's Miller that we're watching with the windshield wipers just on steady at the moment. Goes way wide, nearly off the racetrack. Coming off that second turn down the back straightaway. So Miller going to have to gather her in, make a little bit better corner where he doesn't scrub so much speed coming through. Now, where he made all of his ground when they caught Smith that first time was coming off of 4, but you can see Smith kept the tires underneath him way better exiting the 4th corner and into the intersection this time. Holds on to that advantage as now Miller has Bristol reeling him back in and looking for a path around.
You know, Brady Smith, I think the one thing he can hope for is that Calvin Miller and Zach Bristol continue to battle for that second spot as we see Tammy White slowly making her way out to the pit lane access area. But yeah, if they can continue to battle back and forth, then all that Brady Smith has to do is just drive straight forward, make sure that they battle and take a little bit of inertia out of one another as they try and get through this track with 13 laps to go.
You saw flagman Jonathan Peterson pointing towards the intersection. I think he was pointing towards Tegan Bjornsson, who we saw slow and now picking back up the pace. That's right as your leader is coming in on Bjornsson. So Bjornsson, who was up front challenging early, had some problems. Now Smith coming after, and there's the back end stepping out again on Brady. Let's see if Miller can take advantage and make a bid for the lead through the intersection.
Bjornsson doing a great job after that recovery, after some instructions from our NASCAR officials. And there's Trent Gillespie right on the back bumper of the 07 of Zach Bristol. Gillespie going to take a look maybe to the outside here, as now he's maybe going to try and cut to the inside as we head towards the backstretch. But Calvin Miller now pulling away just a little bit. We got a side-by-side battle between Trent Gillespie and Zach Bristol.
This is a terrible, terrible touchy spot for Smith, who's got a fast car. He's trying to lap in front of him. Meanwhile, Miller has made up all the ground behind him. Got to make a choice. You're going to play offense or defense at this point if you're the leader, Smith. Miller looking at him, coming through the intersection, and now Gillespie to 3rd.
What a great move there and a great battle. You know, nearly a half a lap of side-by-side racing between the 025 and the 07 as we see now Gillespie side-by-side with 49 of Calvin Miller. They're going to be side-by-side all the way down the backstretch into turn number 3. Coming up, they'll have Tegan Bjornsson to try and get around as they chase down the 16D of Brady Smith.
Wow, chaos up front in this one as we're getting close to single-digit laps left. There's Miller trying to fend off Gillespie. Gillespie has kind of used this perfect storm of traffic to make his way up and through. Miller a much tighter corner as we got a guy spun out on the inside in turn number 1. I think that was your 85X of Armstrong that we've got parked against the tires. And are we going to see the caution lights come on? That's the question here. Your leader, Smith, might like seeing the lap traffic go bye-bye and have clean track in front of him, and yes, we do. Caution lights come on for Armstrong in the 85X. 10 laps to go here in the Interstate Battery Hornets A main event, and we'll be back with a thrilling conclusion next here on Home Track Heroes. And welcome back to Home Track Heroes as we're getting ready to finish off the Interstate Batteries Hornet A main event. Just 10 laps to go, and we have seen some guys really move their way up the field. This is going to be an absolute killer final 10 laps of this main event.
Like you said, one of the drivers that we've been watching, the 07 Zach Bristol, coming from the B main, starting at the back of the pack, making his way up. We're seeing him towards the top of the leaderboard. A lot of fun to watch and see some of the moves they're making.
This segment on Home Track Heroes brought to you by Busch Beer, the official beer of NASCAR and Evergreen Speedway. Busch Beer, the sound of refreshment, crisp and cold as a mountain stream. Keep your fridge happy by stocking it with Busch and Busch Light. Busch.
And look at that, right at the end of the bush, the green flag flies, and we are off racing. And a little bit of bump there from the 16D of Brady Smith, and it looks like Calvin Miller going to jump out in front as we see Brady Smith spinning around there right before that hard left turn, and then a little contact with the 85X of Eric Armstrong.
Shot in the shorts from Armstrong as it all goes wrong for Brady Smith on the restart. I think we're going to get a second look at it. Our first flashback here of Home Track Heroes, albeit flashing back to about 13 seconds ago. Coming through, you can see the first contact starts and getting through the intersection. Miller recovers, Smith doesn't, takes the loop, fires it back off, and smack.
And just a great job by nearly everybody in the rest of that field to be able to get around Brady Smith. But we see Brady then just kind of spinning towards the top portion of that, and unfortunately for Eric, not seeing him as we see Chuck Fisher goes a little bit wide there, but he just comes in hot on the outside and doesn't see Brady Smith.
Wow, so one more look at the contact, and you can see that's right at one of the weight transfer parts of the racetrack as Smith starts getting the car around right, snaps it all the way around, and well, we've got a wreck, we've got guys putting car parts back together, and we're going to have a new race leader when we come back to green flag action. Calvin Miller should be in the catbird seat, but boy, he's got some talent right in and around him.
He does, yeah, and you hate to see that on a restart, too. You see Brady Smith doing such a great job throughout this race, but great opportunity here for the 49 of Calvin Miller, and we'll see who else can maybe challenge him for that top spot in this A main event.
Bristol from the B, Gillespie from a 15th place starting spot. Let's see how it all shakes out. Hey, look, Bobby Fischer, bad luck early, but he's already back into your top 5, sitting outside. Row number 2 with House and Fluck and Chuck Fisher making up the 3rd row as they'll pick up the RPMs and come back to Green Flag Racing.
So Gillespie on the inside, Calvin Miller on the outside, probably the preferred spot to be for this restart as they come through, and they'll be heading through the intersection, green flag out, and we have 10 laps to go with Calvin Miller on the inside. Now making that turn, Gillespie going off a low there too as we see him now jumping out into the lead. So Miller going a little bit wide there, and that allows the 025 Trent Gillespie to capitalize.
You watch the car's attitude on Miller, and it looked like he was trying to pinch Gillespie off at the inside, but just couldn't get the car down far enough or enough clearance to make the defensive move. Gillespie jumps forward, takes advantage, opens up a couple of car lengths on Miller, who now has to fend off both Bristol and, hey, Bobby Fischer racing hard, looking for 3rd, diving to the inside of Bristol, coming down the back straightaway.
What a group of veteran racers here in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. You have Calvin Miller, Bobby Fischer, Zach Bristol, and Ryan Hassenfluck. You're, as you said earlier, the champion from last year, and we take a look back a little bit further in the field. Diesel Snyder trying to continue this good run there for the 717, making the jump up to the Hornets this year from the Youth Hornets as we take a look back at Trent Gillespie coming across the start-finish line. 8 laps now to go.
That race for 3rd is still a banger, getting right in there as Hassenfluck is about ready to show his nose and be part of the factor. It is Fischer low in the red, blue, and white 81. He was actually nosing ahead as they rolled on the back straightaway. Bristol in the 07 back to the top side of 3 and 4, and you can see he makes up some pretty big advantage right through the middle of the turn. That is a great battle as we watch your front 2 into the intersection for 3rd. 3 cars getting after it, and ooh, House and Fluck a little sideways.
Nice save there by the 33. As we see, as you said, the 07, the 81, and the 33, a nice tight group there. And what we kind of saw is Calvin Miller was kind of back with this group in 3rd all the way through 5th. Calvin Miller is now pulled ahead. He's trying to catch up to the 025 and Trent Gillespie. And meanwhile, he's leaving the 07, the 81, and the 33 behind.
Calvin Miller is, Christian Miller is entering the chat in the black 77 car. Another one of our move-ups from deep in the field as he's now up into 6th, and he's closing in on Hassenfluck. That was your championship battle, if I remember correctly, last year between Hassenfluck and Miller, coming down in the very end stages of things. So Hassenfluck now in 5th. The lanes have opened up as Bristol finally clears Bobby Fischer. See if Ryan can do anything as he's arcing the car up on the high side. One groove higher than Fischer, with Miller trying to dial in on the back and pick up a meaningful spot. May not look like a whole lot now, but come September, that spot could be the difference.
These points are going to be big. Even 1 place separating the 2 of them, that's going to be a lot here. As we see right on the back bumper of Bobby Fischer, the 33 Ryan Hassenfluck. And it looks like the 77 Christian Miller going a little bit wide there in that turn. Back to your lead pack, the 025 Trent Gillespie now has the 49 of Calvin Miller just screaming up on his back end here as we come down the front stretch across the start-finish line. So Gillespie still doing a great job, though. Calvin Miller knocking on the door as we have 4 remaining.
That's the race for 4th between Hassenfluck and the 33. Tag in the back of the 81 of Miller. Clean as they enter the back straightaway. Hassenfluck trying to take a look down low. Fischer at the 81. I keep getting that screwed up. I apologize. Hey, it's our first one of the year. We're allowed a couple of screw-ups, right? Been a long off season. As we're coming to 3 to go, and Calvin Miller is reeling in Trent Gillespie for the lead.
So we'll see what the 49 can do as they come through the intersection. Trent Gillespie making that turn as Calvin Miller right on the back bumper there. Heading towards the back stretch, there's Bobby Fischer, Ryan Hassenfluck. They are doing a little bit of the same as you see the 07 Zach Bristol still kind of hanging out there in front of the 81 of Bobby Fischer as they head down the back stretch now into turn number 3, getting ever so slightly closer. As best as I can say that, but Calvin Miller just encroaching there on the 023 of Trent Gillespie.
It's been a slow process to reel him in, but he's certainly done it. We have seen Calvin Miller do some big things on last laps here at Evergreen Speedway. He is not opposed to being spectacular at the very end. See how this plays out. Gillespie, a really good entrance to the back straightaway as he gained a little bit of ground. There's slower traffic looming. We got one more trip around the road course coming up as they cross the white stripe right about now.
And this is the big hope now for the 49 to Calvin Miller. So we see the white flag out, 1 lap to go, and we see Trent Gillespie in the 025 getting slowed down there a little bit by the 85X of Eric Armstrong. Miller looking for an opportunity, but great turn there by Trent Gillespie as he's now heading down the backstretch, starting to get around all of that lap traffic, and now a little bit of space between him and the 49 of Calvin Miller into turn 3.
Exactly what Gillespie needed. A clean set of corners dispatches both of the lappers, and the first Interstate Batteries Hornet A main event of the year goes to Trent Gillespie. Gillespie with the W, Calvin Miller second, and Zach Bristol third, Bobby Fisher, and Ryan Hausenfluck end up rounding out your top 5. Entertaining main event to kick us off. That's going to set the pace for the year. We're in good shape here as we're going to kick it down. We interview your top 3 here on Home Track Heroes, and Derek Todoroff going to do the honors with our top 3 for the Interstate Batteries Hornets.
As usual, the first question, who do you have up with you here tonight?
I got Little Munchkins, my little niece, and if you can't tell, this is my mini-me. This is my nephew, Finn and Eva. They came out brave the cold along with you fans. I don't know why they came, but Mom and Dad brought them, put on a good show for them. So
you rolled along the top side all night long tonight. You did fantastic, rolling from the B main into the A main and a podium here as well. What was the secret to holding that high line?
You got to feather it really bad in 3 and 4. Down here, you could slip. Rain racing is an art. It absolutely is. It's hard to maintain cars. I mean, the Hornets did really well tonight, but yeah, I was trying to do something never been done. Went from back to front to B main. Would have been. I felt like I could have won. Got into contact out there and put the toe in. Made it almost undrivable, but I don't know how we pulled it off third, but we did. Who
would you like to thank for your performance out here tonight?
If he's listening, Damon Claiborne. He bought that car for me over the off season. We're going to run minis this year. Blew up last week. And he called me last night, come get the car, have some fun. Certainly did. And gourmet latte, PMS power decals with Trish and Troy and Taylor. And the Hornet class. This is my 15th year in Hornets. That's why I keep coming back. Calvin, Trent, all the guys and gals in this Hornet class is such a blast to run with.
Driver of the 07, Zach Bristol, 3rd place tonight in the Hornets. Well, Calvin, first question, I just want to know what happened there on that restart between you and the 16D?
I can't say what I want to say, buddy. Track got really small really quick, so I just shortcutted it. I got a restart and did it again. So it was a pretty good race, first race in the wet. It was a good start to the season, actually, and we'll see what we can do in Stingers. I need to thank my mom and dad, Cox Wheels, Dawson Cox, Joe's Racing, PFI. Northwest Poly Services, and everybody else that helps me get the car on the track.
Driver of the number 49, you'll see him again in Stingers, Calvin Miller. You knew everything about that 025 car tonight and held off Calvin Miller, who was hard charging there at the end. What did it take to take this rain win?
A good old single jingle.
All right. You seem to be real calm out there tonight. I mean, what is it that lets you just keep so calm under pressure during these Hornet races?
Well, it's a pretty slow car, so it's pretty easy to drive.
And who would you like to thank for your performance out here tonight?
Well, I'd like to thank Cole Raridan because that was his 3rd place championship car in 2017. And I pulled it out of the weeds and got it back going. And now it's winning races again.
Looking forward to seeing you out here more tonight. Driver of the 025, race winner, Trent Gillespie.
First main event of the year is in the books. We'll move on to some of bigger boys and some of their battered toys. It is time for the Outlaw figure 8s here at Evergreen Speedway on Home Track Heroes. Here on the CW11, he's Greg Pilot. I am Caleb Park. Thank you guys for making us your entertainment choice here on a Sunday night. Boy, the Outlaw figure 8s. Fun division, lots happening in the off-season, rumors of a lot of new cars coming out. Let's see what happens at our very first main event of 2023.
Should be very exciting to see some cars with a little bit more horsepower, see what they do on this wet track as we're going to bring you the starting order here in the front row. We have the 676 Ricky the Kid Dietz, sponsored by Tire Pros of Arlington. On the outside, the 0 of Jillian Lopato, sponsored by Hager Motorsports.
Zach Larson inside row number 2, or inside the second row, or just in the second row, I guess you can say, depending on what corner they're in. He's the 83. John Carlson, the 50, and the Fireplace Guy, Hearth and Home LLC, number 50 car.
Sponsored by Pristine Landscaping, it's the 98 of Richard Chainbrook on the outside. Sponsored by Tony V's Garage, the 25, Dakota Wilkinson.
And final row, Jim Powers, the 007, Pilchuck Heating is sponsor. Jamie Corbett, the 767 in the A1 Auto Service Center car. So 8 cars make the call for the main. They're going to go 30 times around the most dangerous intersection in the world. We've got some onboard footage. Zach Larson, the Anderson Speed Shop, number 83. Let us put the camera on and off and running. Green flag is already out.
What a cool view there to see Larson's kind of on board there as we see him right behind Ricky the Kid Dietz. Back to the track, there's a 0 Jillian Lopato with a new paint scheme as well, looking very sharp. But Ricky the Kid Dietz out in front with the 83G of Zach Larson in that second spot as they come around the south tower here across the start-finish line and back into that intersection once again. A little bit of trouble there.
Ooh, car around. That's Jillian in the new car, is it not?
No,
that's Shane Brook.
Yeah, I think that's Richard Shainbrook in the 98. So a little issue there as we take a look at John the Cowboy Carlson. Shainbrook able to get things rolling there once again, but we stay green, which is always good here as Ricky the Kid Dietz comes across the start-finish line here once again. Back to that Larson onboard, just kind of a cool view there as we see him coming around right behind the 676 as they make their way around, and definitely being a little bit cautious out there. And you know much more about this than I do, Caleb, but the difference in horsepower, the difference in engine size for these cars compared to what we saw with the Hornets, going to make a big difference, and a little bit tighter turns too.
Well, quickly double the cylinder count. That's a big portion of it. But these guys have more horsepower than what they can use here on our tight little figure-8 track. So it's a lot of throttle control, and especially here with the moisture down on the track, it's a lot of feather the throttle, know when to get into it, make sure you're not busting the car too far loose to let somebody get inside and out of you. You look at Dietz, compared to when this track is dry, it looks like he is going really slow. Just kind of burping the throttle, keeping it down and around. But the big thing for him, he's making tight corners, and it never looks like the car is washing out on him one way or the other. Slow is going to be fast in this environment right here. And Zach Larson, an accomplished, very talented with a very fast car. And behind him, you can see making a very similar path through this racetrack and not really gaining on it.
And that's one thing that we saw so much last year too in this division. 676, when he's able to get and lock in that lane when nobody's trying to challenge him, trying to go to the inside or the outside of him. Just so smooth with those corners, and we're seeing that a little bit here tonight as we see the 98 of Richard Shainbrook in the middle of the tires there as we see cleanly through for the 676 of Ricky Dietz.
Decided to call her good for the night already, did Shane Brook. You're watching Dietz roll in and around, and let you guys know that this segment brought to you by Central Welding Supply. Their mission of excellent service hasn't changed since 1975. Local ownership, larger inventory, and expert staff makes the difference at 27 locations. Find one near you at centralwelding.com.
And Shainbrook making a bold move trying to get to pit lane there as he came the wrong way across down the front stretch, made his way out, and so he's no longer any kind of an issue there in the middle of the tires. Back to your leader, the 676 of Ricky Dietz. The 83G Zach Larson still holding on firm to that second spot. The Cowboy John Carlson in the 50 and third. As we continue here through with 7 laps down, 23 laps to go.
The last time we saw Dietz, he was picking up a major race win as he won the 60 Minutes of Fear as their season ender with the Outlaw Figure 8 division. So carrying that momentum into the offseason, he was also the division champion on the year. Has lots to defend. He's looking to set the pace early with a feature win. There is Larson. Larson, a part-timer last year. Didn't see him for all the races, but Zach has been traveling a little bit. Not afraid to haul the car down to California, go back to Indianapolis, get some seat time in there. So he'll be a threat every time we see him, and right now a real solid second place run for him. In third, Cowboy John Carlson, you know him. Famous for his fence climbs. He gets more than a few in every season.
It'll be interesting to see if the Cowboy is able to win a few main events this year. If he's still of age where he's able to make that climb, I'm sure that he'll probably never be too old to at least give it a go, and in Cowboy boots, which is always impressive.
Take a look at, you're getting the onboard from Cowboy right now, and you can see there's still some moisture out there. Is taking a look at the lens and the GoPro that's on him, but the track is drying quite nicely. You don't really see a whole lot of bare spots, but there's no puddles as well, and that makes a big difference. Knowing you're going to go into the corner and you don't have to worry about hydroplaning coming out of it. It's all throttle control here on a track that's looking better and better for these figure 8s by every lap.
Well, and the good news is with a little bit of the water that's on the track, they're probably not going to be running through their tires maybe as much as they would on a dry day. So, it's a tire-saving event out here tonight.
That's right. We're thinking of the teams. We just got a little extra moist for them.
That's right.
Dietz, your leader, puts a lap car in and behind him. That's going to be key in case Larson can end up running down this advantage. He got in, through, and dispatched that slower car quickly. So on your left, that's John Carlson on the inboard. On your right, we're watching second place Zach Larson trying to close on Ricky Dietz and not having a whole lot of success as Dietz is just super quick here tonight. Another look at him trying to put a lap on Dakota Wilkinson.
And something fun to see too is the 007. That's Jim Powers. Jim, no stranger to figure 8 racing, but out here with the Outlaw figure 8. So a lot of fun to see Jim kind of making the venture off into another division here, as we're used to seeing him in the super stock figure 8s, but making a run out in the Outlaw figure 8s with a nice new car.
That was a really good example of what happens when these drivers really do throttle up. You kind of saw it from Dietz coming around what we call the south pole there. The back end started stepping out on him as he got more into the throttle. He got it to catch up to himself, and that's what he used to get underneath Dietz coming through. You'll watch it right here. He's not going to have to do it as hard this time because he doesn't have to beat somebody coming out of the corner. Makes a more of a circle, comes in and through, but the last time that back end started kicking because he was jamming on the throttle a lot harder and busting her loose.
Looked like he used Dakota Wilkinson there as a little bit of a bank into that North Pole turn in the 25 cars. We see Ricky Dietz able to get around the 25 out in front with a lap car around him, holding up in front of the 83G of Zach Larson. So actually 2 lap cars. You have Jim Powers, Dakota Wilkinson. So Ricky the Kid Dietz out there cruising out in front as we now have just surpassed the halfway mark of this Outlaw figure 8 main event. 14 laps to go.
Dietz did a lot of work on the car in the off season. They were in the shop multiple times, put a lot of new parts on it. Redid a couple of things with front end geometry and the wingboards on it. And so far paying off for him is we're going to go both in-car shots, and this is actually a battle on the track. So on the left side, that's Zach Larson in second, and Cowboy is in third. He's on the right-hand side. You can see exactly what Cowboy's trying to do to Larson as they're coming through the intersection. So a view for the battle from second from both different perspectives. This is cool.
Close to maybe a little bit of bump there from the 50. And Zach Larson still doing a great job here leading through as they come through the intersection here. But what a cool new view and new perspective as we see here the side-by-side comparison with Larson and Carlson make their way around the South Pole across the start-finish line as they pass by the 25 of Dakota Wilkinson.
This is bad timing for Carlson as he ends up on the outside of the corner coming into the South Pole. However, Larson didn't make the best turn. Got away from him a little bit, but that could have been way worse for Cowboys. He did not lose an abundance of ground having to go around the long side of the South Pole there.
And back to your leader, Ricky Dietz in the 676, making his way smoothly, getting a little bit loose there out of that turn. And we'll see if Zach Larson or John Carlson is able to capitalize, but a lot of space there that they're going to have to make up as we see Carlson trying to take a look to the low side, now going to be maybe taking a peek to the outside, but still cannot get around that 83G of Zach Larson.
Going to be interesting to see if Carlson gets aggressive coming in here late. You see a lot of contact in the figure 8 divisions. That's just natural by the way that they run these cars. There is a bit of beating and banging. They've got some big old industrial strength rear bumpers on those things and front bumpers for a reason. So let's see if Cowboy muscles him up coming here late from second place.
Starting to see a little action there in the intersection. Dietz able to cleanly get through, but we see some of the cars a little bit further back in the pack that are starting to become a little bit of an issue here, as that was Jim Powers, Dakota Wilkinson. He was able to split them, and everything's still looking solid for the 676 out in front.
I feel like we should say Jamie Corbett's name once because we haven't said it like hardly at all, because he's just been hanging out there, no problem. He's been fourth, nobody threatening him. Just close enough in case something happens to Larson and Carlson. He'll be there, but well done, Jamie. Way to run a nice, clean race out there.
Just getting points. That's all that matters, right? Just getting laps and getting points.
Well, it's only the second full season for Jamie, too. So every one of these laps is valuable. You put it into the knowledge bank. It's you've got some recall. And, hey, I remember the night was a little bit wet and the car did this, so I can do this different. I can do this. This worked really well for me. So this is valuable for every driver out there, even if you're one of those drivers who's been lapped a couple of times, and especially valuable for a young driver like Jamie.
And we see the seat time aspect that you're talking about too is so important in all the different divisions, but with this one in particular, you're running that same course, and so knowing exactly, depending on the weather conditions, when you can step on it, when you need to back off a little bit. So great job there by the 767 Jamie Corbett, like you said, hanging on and fourth.
In my time paying attention to this division, it seems to be a veteran-dominated division. I haven't seen a lot of newcomers come in and really show themselves well. At case in point, we've seen Larson, Cowboy, Deeds many times putting up big results. So yeah, all of that bank of knowledge that they have and all that seat time really pays off in this division compared to a lot of others.
So still checking out this battle between the 83G of Zach Larson, the 50 of John Carlson, as they continue to make their way through. 5 laps now remain, your Outlaw Figure 8's main event for the evening. And we'll see if the Cowboy is going to, like you said earlier, Caleb, is he going to try and make some sort of move as we have now 4 laps remaining? Now would be the time to try and make it, as they're going to have a hard time catching up to that 676.
It's tight. You almost feel like Larson's going to have to make a big mistake in order for Carlson to get the run that he needs to. Larson's car, you can see it, part of the reason that he's lost touch with Deeds is that he just can't quite stay as smooth coming off that south pole and around. That back end has stepped out on him a little bit. It stepped out a little bit on the north side too, but he's got enough speed, he's got enough traction coming out that Carlson can't quite take advantage of it.
And definitely doesn't look like he's going to be trying to go to the outside as we go back to your leader. 676 of Ricky Dietz now behind the 25 Dakota Wilkinson, a lap car, so he's still out in front. There's a 767 in that 4th spot, so Jamie Corbett still holding on strong, getting those laps in, as once again back to your leader trying to get around another lap car, the 25 Dakota Wilkinson, as he comes through the intersection, getting down to 2 laps remaining.
And right now, you know the teams are on the radio to Ricky going, hey, you've got half a track. You don't need to do anything silly. You got 1 lap to go. Just bring her on home. You're in good shape. He's going to pull in right behind Dakota. Dakota gets out of the way, and Deeds going to have clear sailing all the way to check the flag from here.
Nice move there by the 25 Dakota Wilkinson to allow Ricky Dietz to get through the 676 through the intersection into the South Pole into our final 2 turns of this figure 8 course. Checkered flag is out, and it goes to the 676 of Ricky the Kid Dietz, Zach Larson in 83G in 2nd, and John Carlson in 3rd.
Well done, Dietz, starting the year off like you finished it in victory lane, taking home a big trophy. Larson and Carlson, all 3 of them, go to the podium with Derek Todoroff.
When it's dry, the car's got lots of bite. We got lots of horsepower. You might as well put us out on a sheet of black ice when it comes to this kind of stuff with the kind of horsepower we have and the way these cars work. So yeah, it's a lot of finesse, not much throttle. You do too much throttle and you're sliding, pushing, doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
You in that 50 car continue looking sharp after all these years. Who helps you put that thing together?
My buddy Tony back there at his shop, and pretty much I do 99% of all the work on it myself. He helps me out. I got a few guys that help out, but that's about it. Got to throw a shout out to my one new sponsor, the Cabo Loco guys.
Driver the number 50, 3rd place tonight, the Cowboy, John Carlson. Well, Zach, you and Cowboy continue to spar throughout that race. What's the secret to holding off a driver like Cowboy?
Well, you learn from him because he doesn't let anybody pass him, so you just let off the gas pedal and let him push you around.
Look like you know how to handle that car as well around this slick track. What's your experience with these slicker Outlaw Figure 8s?
There's not a lot you can do to the car, in my opinion, to get it ready. You just kind of got to adjust your driving and kind of figure it out.
And who would you like to thank for your performance out here tonight?
I got to thank Gunderson Speed Shop, Brunchbone Concrete Pumping, and my wife, Michaela.
Driver of the number 83G, Zach Larson. So the last time I called an event at Evergreen Speedway, it was 60 Minutes of Fear. You came home with the win then, you come home with the win now. What makes that 676 fly?
Gee, I don't know, just a lot of hard work. I got some good people behind me. It's a Gunderson Speed Shop car, and it's pretty hard to beat, you know. Besides, I've been racing out here doing this for like 35 years, so I can kind of go around the track almost in my sleep, along with John Carlson. He can do the same thing. He's been out here forever. You know, that does pay off in the long run.
Who would you like to thank for your amazing show out here tonight?
Well, first off, I'd like to thank these incredible fans that come out here in the freezing cold, wet weather to watch us. Because if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this, and I need to do this. So thank you. I need to thank Tire Pros shop of Arlington. They're the reason I'm here. My girlfriend, Katie, for making my tires look great. Augie, right here, this is him. He's my spotter. He's my traction control. He keeps me calm, tells me I don't need to step on the loud pedal so much. I got Paul Peterson. He's always here for me. I got J2 Racing. They climbed on board this year. And God, I'm probably forgetting some people, but mostly the fans. Thank you guys.
Driver of the 676, last year's champion and this race's winner, Ricky Dietz.
Welcome back to Home Track Heroes here on the CW11. I'm Caleb Hart. He's Greg Pyland, and we're back to 4 cylinders for the rest of our show. We're going to the BECU Mini Stock Division where things are wide open coming into 2023.
Yeah, it should be a very exciting race. Super excited for this division to start off the 2023 race season. Excited to see the shakeup potentially at the top, as we'll talk a little bit about that later on.
Well, let's not bury the lead. Lane Sunholm has been the dominant factor in this class for years now, and Lane is done. That race car is still here, but no Lane Sunholm in it. So you open the door wide open to a lot of different drivers, and we've got some move-ups, we've got some new equipment. There's a lot of stories that we're going to be able to follow. Let's tell you about the stories we're going to be following here in this one. On the pole for this 30-lap BECU Mini Stock main event, it is Lyndon Smith in the 221. That is the former Sunholm car, sponsored by PRCBD.com. The Cookie Queen, Jaden Kelly, next to him in the 24, sponsored by Tom's Automotive.
Next row back, we have the 2 of Michael Fritz, sponsored by Crooks and Kingsbarger Company. And the 14 on the outside is Austin Kramer, sponsored by Lifetime Heating and Cooling.
Gavin Ballou, the Reardon Engines, Cole Reardon sponsored number 12 inside row number 3. Next to him, Ronnie Absher, one of multiple Abshers in this race, the U.S. Seafood number 72.
Sponsored by J.D. Garcia Construction, it's the 99 of Jeff Henderson. On the outside is Absher Build LLC, sponsored the 26 of Jimmy Absher.
Starting 9th, Jason Ingbaum, going to run the 27 this year. Erickson Real Estate, the sponsor, Addison Homish. Brooklyn Bender in the 18, sponsored by PRCBD, is starting 10th.
And sponsored by Simon and Son Towing in the last row, the number 16, Travis Woodward, as we make our way out of turn number 4 down the front stretch, looking for the green flag. And it is flying. We are underway here, BECU Mini Stock main event. And you talked about it, the 221 Lyndon Smith's car, now previously owned by the 18 of Lane Sunholm, and we see it cruising out there in a familiar spot out in front of the pack.
Now, this is something to watch for, and we saw a lot of it happen in the Hornet division where guys would get a little bit squirrely, just like what happens on the inside, and a tag, and a bump, and, you know, somebody told me that this was going to be an easy-going, clean race that gets off to a nice, calm start. I believed them for a second, and unfortunately that's not the case. Kelly is turned around facing the wrong direction. You've got the 2 of Michael Fritz, and you've got the 14 of Austin Kramer, the 3 cars involved in our first of what could be a bit of an adventure as far as this 30 laps goes, as far as cautions are concerned. Let's see how it all happened.
Here we come into that turn number 3 into 4, and it is the 2 of Michael Fritz that gets spun around, and there goes Jaden Kelly in the 24 into the 14 car of Austin Kramer. So just kind of unfortunate spot there for the 24 of Kelly. Has to slam on the brakes, gets into the back end of the 2, and then goes into the 14 of Austin Kramer.
Chain reaction. Now the question is, who can restart and who can continue on? As you see, 2 of Fritz limping along, 14 of Kramer limping along around the back of the field. It's pretty significant damage to the right rear. I don't think that is factory stock as far as the caster camber and inclination of that right rear tire goes.
It'll be
Oops.
It'll be interesting to see too. Jeff Henderson in the 99, kind of in the back portion of that contact. We'll see if there's any issues there. That's a new one to me. Not sure if that's new this year for the 99 Jeff Henderson, but hopefully that's not how his race season starts on the first lap.
I would say it's an auspicious start, but they've got nowhere to go but up. So let's try it again as we go back to the track and back to action. They're stacked up 2 by 2. Looks like we lost 2 cars in the exchange, so we're down 9. They're going to go 30 times around here on the 3/8. Lyndon Smith still sitting in the catbird seat inside row number 1. Rest of the field has changed around pretty significantly behind him. I think it's Jaden Kelly who didn't make the call. That'll be your second car out of this lineup.
And green flag is out. We are underway once again. Lyndon Smith in the 221. There's the 12 of Gavin Belu, and the 99, Jeff Henderson, was able to recover there in that third spot with the 26 of Jimmy Absher in fourth. As we see Lyndon Smith staying on that high lane as they come into turn number 3. The 12 of Gavin Belu on the low side, trying to take advantage of a little bit shorter track there, but able to hold on to that speed as the 221 of Lyndon Smith for a lap down.
Smith looking smooth. One of the things I was starting to say before we got into this racing action, we saw how much the Hornets ended up wiggling around and losing control a bit in the wet. Well, you lower the weight and you up the horsepower with the same wheelbase size here in the mini stocks, and that means they get into the wet, it gets even more spectacular. So let's keep our eyes on that as Jimmy Absher will move into second in the 26, chasing down Lyndon Smith.
Sounds like a recipe for fun, Taylor.
Oh, I love it.
All right, Lyndon Smith, 221. High side still out of turn number 2 down the backstretch. The 26 of Absher able to make that pass on the 12 of Gavin Belu, and now taking that same lane, that same side that Belu was doing, trying to stay on the low side of Lyndon Smith in the 221. We see Smith just did the same thing, able to hold on to that speed on the high side of turn number 4, able to cruise on through. Here comes the 99 of Jeff Henderson making a good run.
How about Travis Woodward? Woodward going to sneak away and take fourth away from Henderson. So Woodward, who started 11th, a little bit of attrition in front of him, but he has moved forward through the field nicely. Only a couple of laps into this, into fourth. Now he's got a straightaway to make up on your top 3 right now. Smith, Absher, sitting a really good pace out and running in this feature.
A lot of great action with only 3 laps down in this BECU mini stock main event. Lyndon Smith into turn number 3 with the 26 of Absher on the low side, back behind the 12 of Gavin Belu. And here comes, just kind of out of the outside of the frame, the 16 of Travis Woodward as we go back to your lead 2. There's a nice shot of the 12 of Gavin Belu coming around into turn number 1. And on the low side, Jimmy Absher is struggling there, side by side with the 221 of Lyndon Smith. Smith going to stay on the high side as they come into 3.
Absher had a great run coming out of the second corner, pulled right up beside him. Smith recovers up on the high side of the racetrack, making the car handle. You can see the back end of that car rotating a little bit early into the corner. That's scrub speed, and a big reason that Jimmy Absher is side by side with your leader and your new leader down the back straightaway.
What a great move, and you nailed it there, Caleb. Just out of that turn number 2, staying on that low side. You see Lyndon Smith getting a little bit loose as they came out down the front stretch into turn number 1. Jimmy Absher, your new race leader with 24 laps to go. Great move there by the 26, and we expect to see a little bit more of that same kind of speed here in turn 1 and 2.
You see Smith making an adjustment. Now he's brought the car down in the corner to try to work forward, but Absher streaking away at the back straightaway. We will watch Smith try to close in. He goes to the top side of turn 3. Let you know this segment brought to you by Monroe Grocery Outlet, your locally owned neighborhood grocery store. They offer name brand products, fresh produce, organics, wine, and more at 40 to 70% less than traditional grocery stores. Shop them first and save. Monroe Grocery Outlet, proud sponsor of our Super Stock Figure 8 division here at Evergreen Speedway.
Some great moves here by the number 26 of Jimmy Absher, and Absher in turns 3 and 4 staying on the low side. We see Lyndon Smith still staying on the high side as we see they continue coming down the front stretch here, and we'll see if Lyndon Smith's going to follow in that same kind of middle lane. No, he's going to go back to the high side in 1 and 2. But Jimmy Absher starting to pull away from the 221 in that 26 car.
Yeah, Smith's hunting right now. He's trying to figure out, he's got a new race car, it's a fast race car, but he's trying to figure out where he's most comfortable and trying to make it work. And at times he's lickety split fast coming off the high groove, but Absher's still pulling away from him. So Smith got some learning to do, trying to work that high groove coming through 1 and 2, and Absher just taking full advantage and adding a ton of distance between himself and Smith. And we're only coming in on 10 laps into this thing. Lots can happen still if Smith gets it figured out.
You know, like you said, maybe just a little bit more seat time. We talked about that earlier with the Outlaw figure 8s, but Lyndon Smith in a brand new car now still has to figure out where that car is going to be running the best. Lane Sunholm knew everything about that car. He was able to run it rain, sleet, snow, anything like that. But Lyndon Smith has some time behind that seat. He's going to probably feel the same way, as it's a great car.
It's still relatively new to the division as well, as he's not a long-time mini-stock veteran, so there is a learning curve, and especially considering all the time he spent in the Hornet. This car is lighter, faster, more power. You can see Smith's starting to figure it out. He caught Absher something serious that last time by. That lead, which was about 6 to 7 car lengths, is now down to 1.5, make it 1 as they enter turn number 3.
Out of 3 into 4, the 26 of Absher coming across the start-finish line now. 18 laps to go with the 221. Lyndon Smith right on the back bumper as they come into turn number 1. A little bit of lap traffic there with the 27 of Jason Ingbaum. And it looks like Absher going to be able to get on by no problem there, as is the 221 of Lyndon Smith now into turn number 3. They're going to be coming up, I believe, on another Absher as they come into turn number 3 and 4. That's going to be Ronnie Absher in the orange car right in front of 26 of Jimmy.
It's target practice. Not so much. He's racing for the lead, and he has got Lyndon Smith in hot pursuit in behind him. Flashback a little ways. That should be the 2 car. Michael Fred's still out there making some time around, but it is your race leader. Jimmy Absher getting around Ronnie, sitting there in blue. Bilou has ended up closing a little bit on those front 2. At the same time, Absher, Smith, Bilou 1 through 3, that's been unchanged for about 14 laps now.
And, you know, Woodward, it seems like in that 16 car, he's kind of kept that same distance between himself and Bilou in the 12 car. So still seeing as he's trying to get around Absher now in the 72, Ronnie Absher. And so we'll see what happens with the number 16 car of Travis Woodward, but still just trying to keep pace with that 12.
Interesting that Absher is changing lines a little bit. As he came into traffic, he naturally had to switch off your line, just find a way to get around the slower car. But that time he took a different entrance into turn 1 that I've seen more than once as you watch Woodward clear Ronnie Absher. So Jimmy Absher halfway through, trying to find the combination to streak away from Lyndon Smith. Smith figuring it out in the 22-21, lap after lap, keeping Jimmy close. Maybe hoping for a little more slower traffic again, as he stays just a car length, 2 car lengths back of him, entering turn number 3 once again.
So just over halfway done with this BECU mini stock main event. Jimmy Absher in the 26, the 221 of Lyndon Smith, as well as Gavin Bilou. Then rounding out into 4th is the 16 of Travis Woodward.
I think I just saw Bilou get all kinds of squirrely right behind in turn number 3, and yes, I did. Gavin Bilou is the car that was spinning out right at the edge of our picture as they rolled their way into turn number 3, or turn number 1, and that's going to cost them. So Bilou yarded to the back of the field. That gathers this group up for something new in the mini stocks this year. We're going to have a declaration cone out there for the drivers to pick high or low to start their lanes off. Going to be interesting.
Should be very interesting with the weather to see where people decide to go, as we'll see that cone as we head back to the track now for this restart. And there it is right in the middle. We'll see what we're going to have our leader do. The 26, Absher going to go on the high side. Lyndon Smith going to go on the low.
And so far, looks like, and there's the gamesmanship a little bit further in the back, and you can see Bilou's going to pick up an entire row worth of cars by going underneath and sticking in the low side. But they kind of went high-low for the first couple of rows until some of them followed each other. So that gets Bilou a little bit further back up the field than what you originally would have thought he would have been. Smith chooses low. Absher, who is your leader at the declaration cone, chose high for this restart. We'll see how it plays out. Behind them, it's Woodward who chose low. And working the outside. Pick up car number 3 as they
99 of Jeff Henderson.
Yep. So side-by-side battle, and Absher's got the advantage coming out of turn number 2. He'll reassert the lead.
So great jump there, and Lyndon Smith unable to capitalize on the low side as we come into turn number 3 after that restart. Jimmy Absher out of 4, and a little bit of issue there. That might have been the 12 of Gavin Bilou once again in turn number 4. So having some issues there going into the grass as we are remaining green, at least for the moment, as Jimmy Absher cruising to a big lead now, and there comes out the yellow.
So second caution for Bilou in short order is you wonder if something's changed on that car. Maybe he started wearing through a tire. I don't know. And there's a lot that changes on these race cars as fuel burns off, etc. So Bilou, learning process for him, his second spin out in. Another chance to look at that declaration cone out on the front straightaway. The first time it plays out really well for Absher. You got to imagine he's going back to the top.
Got to stay to the top. It worked out very well, and we saw just before that caution the lead that Absher got in front of Lyndon Smith. So expect to see, obviously, Lyndon's not going to give up that low side, so we'll see how this restart happens again with the 221 and the 26.
Yeah, the first guy who really has an important decision to make is going to be Woodward, whether he wants to follow Absher up on the high side or keep tucked in down low. And you can see once again, Absher pretty definitively declared high. Smith low, and Woodward says, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Tucks it to the inside going forward. This time he's going to pick up multiple rows of cars by going to one side. He's going to be stuck in the back.
And I think kind of a really fun, interesting new aspect to have that cone out there. People to decide which way they're going to go, if they're going to go to the high side or low side, especially on nights like this where there's a little water on the track. Going to make things very interesting here, and like you said, maybe potentially people can move up very far when too many people go to that high side.
Earlier on in a heat race, we had 5 drivers declare for one groove, and the 6th place car got to pick up a whole bunch of different spots. Else going to one side of the racetrack. So Absher again, good start, gets out to the lead. Smith, Woodward, and Henderson battling it out for that 3rd spot. Woodward to the inside, and Woodward's actually close enough on Smith that if Linden didn't make a good corner there, Travis would be close. Show him a nose, maybe. In fact, that was close enough to actually start putting pressure on turn number 1.
Yeah, great job there on the inside by the 16 of Travis Woodward. Woodward nearly gets to the side of the 221 of Linden Smith as they go down the backstretch now. Woodward working that low lane as they come into turn number 3, working into 4 now. We'll see if that's going to pay off as Linden Smith cruises on that upper side of turn number 4 and down the front stretch. Jimmy Absher just doing the right things here as we're 11 laps remaining here on this BECU mini stock main event.
Once again in the 12, trying to pick his way back through the field. Your top 3, Jimmy Absher has led most of them. Linden Smith, Travis Woodward, as, caution lights on once again. And, well, find out what it is. I didn't see anything. Oh, it's Woodward. Woodward stopped. We go to a break. More after this. We have had some fireworks early in this BECU mini stock main event. We're going to come back with, I don't know, the final third of it here on Home Track Heroes on the CW11. Greg Pylan, Caleb Hart, and anything could happen over this final third of this race. I've seen just enough so far to think we probably got a little more coming, right?
Lots of action in this BECU mini stock main event, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more action here. As you said, we just have about a third of it left. We're going to see the decision cone here once again as we see that beautiful Evergreen Speedway pace car coming across the start-finish line, and Jimmy Absher to the high side, Linden Smith to the low.
Row number 2 behind him is now Fritz and 99 of Henderson, so those 2 drivers' chance to make up some ground, do something. Travis Woodward, who was running 3rd all the way to the back of the pack, he restarts in 9th with 11 laps to go. We'll see if he can climb back through. Actually, looks like by the way that the cone shook out, he's going to be inside row number 4. So again, cone can do some things. Woodward just picked up a couple of cars worth of spots. Guys, he's not going to have to pass now. We'll see how it shakes out. 11 more times around our 3/8 mile. As we're green once again, and Linden Smith got a great start. And Jimmy Absher got punted. A shot in the shorts and around from Absher, and a trip into the green grass. Let's look at it again.
What a shame there for the 26 of Jimmy Absher. Just see a little bit of contact there. It's enough to spin him around into turn number 1. Really, really sad to see there as Jimmy was running such a solid race, and that's going to be the number 2 of Michael Fritz that just gets into the back of the 27 down the front stretch, enough to turn him around into turn number 1 into the grass.
We say punted. You look at the way that Absher was angling the car to get down a groove and try to get to the inside there. Maybe he had lifted, it's hard to say. Maybe he had lifted and Fritz had not anticipated the lift at that point in time. Definitely got into the end of it. Well, we can't tell his intent there, but disaster for Absher, who now has to work his way up from the back with 11 laps to go.
And for Linden Smith in the 221, this was the restart that he was looking for too, right? Had a great restart. We saw Jimmy was trying to do what he could to get back up with that 221.
So it looks like Fritz is going off raceway in too, so he will be penalized or is penalizing himself or something is broken. Whatever it is, if he comes back out, he'll be at the back of the pack as well. And now at the cone, Smith goes high. It's going to be Anderson in low. And what do you know? Travis Woodward, without a lap complete, goes from 9th to 7th, now back up to like 4th-ish.
Not a bad spot for the 16 of Travis Woodward. We see the 12 of Gavin Belu. Going to be on that high side in row number 2, the low side Travis Woodward. And we have Ronnie Absher. And there is Jimmy Absher in the 26. So from that front row now into that 3rd row on the low side.
I mean, it's not optimal, but that could have been a lot worse, right? Jason Engbaum on the outside of the 4th row in the 27, and Engbaum completely destroyed that car in practice a week ago. Complete rebuild, I think, front to back of the 27 car that Tiffany Engbaum was past. Get the car back together. We're back under green flag conditions, and Lyndon Smith cruising up on the high side. Henderson and now Belu in the battle side by side for second as they come through the third and fourth corners.
And looked like Belu had to just lift up just a little bit there into turn 3 and 4 as he was side by side with the 99 of Jeff Henderson. Now able to stick on that high lane as he's coming up behind the 221 of Lyndon Smith. But Smith doing a great job coming out of turn number 2, heading down the backstretch. Here comes Jimmy Absher, though. Absher now side by side with the 99 of Jeff Henderson into 3.
He is bound and determined to podium in this race, and he is back up to third. As now going to close in on Belu. This was your top 3 early, albeit in a different order before Belu spun not once but twice. Absher has been around. The only guy who's been consistently up in this spot has been Lyndon Smith, who's running a pretty good race up there and trying to add some distance between second and third.
And great battle here for that second spot. It's Gavin Belu on the high side, Jimmy Absher on the low side. Absher able to get around for that second spot, now back behind the 221 of Lyndon Smith as they come across with 8 laps to go.
Absher has made a big run back up the pack, and look at him close the difference on Smith. You could say Absher looks like he's got the fastest car in the field right now. Can he make it pay off? He's down a groove, in fact, close to the inside, and Smith goes way high. Battle for the lead, and at the line, I'd be darned to say if Absher didn't get it.
And he did indeed into first and getting loose in turn 1 and 2. But just doing a great job drifting around 1 and 2 as the 26 of Absher able to cut in front of the 221 of Smith. Now Lyndon Smith going to be on the middle lane into 3 and 4. Now he's going to tuck behind the 26 of Jimmy Absher as they come out of 4 down the front stretch. But man, what a series of events there in that turn 1 and 2.
Wow, just slid to the corner, came across the nose like dirt track style, and now Smith finding some speed down on the inside. Absher gets away at corner exit, and Lyndon Smith, who has been almost exclusively up high, barreling in down low and making some moves on Jimmy Absher. This battle for the lead's not done.
Great continued battle here as we have 5 laps remaining now. Lyndon Smith on the low side in 1 and 2 has a slight advantage, but there goes the 26 of Jimmy Absher slingshotting out of turn number 2 down the backstretch. Still in that third spot is the 12 of Gavin Belu, now just coming into frame as the 16 of Woodward in that 4th spot trying to challenge for third. Great job here out of turn number 4 and down the front stretch. Jimmy Absher, another lap down.
Front end and bounce. Smith car coming off the 4th corner. He's going to get down the rumble strip. As I watched a little bit of, I don't know, fluttering in the front end, and that may be costing him here. Absher gets away down the back straightaway, and Smith's going to change tactics again. Back up to the high side in 3 and 4. That's not where he made his hay, as you see. Absher getting away from Smith out in front. There's the race for third.
Belu on the high side, Travis Woodward on the low side as they come down the front stretch into 1 and 2. Now going to be side by side. Great corner there by the 16 of Travis Woodward, now tucking behind as we see able to hold his momentum out of turn number 2 is the 12 of Gavin Belu, but now once again side by side. Battle for third, still doing really hot here in turn number 4 down the front stretch. It's going to be the advantage to the 12 of Gavin Belu on that lap.
2 laps to go. Woodward putting himself in position, and Belu overcooks it and splash into the puddle at the bottom of turn number 2 with smoke billowing from underneath the car. Wow, Gavin Belu, third time this race, and a valuable lesson for him in racing in the rain. Just got to keep the 4 tires underneath you the whole way around.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, Gavin Belu had such a great chance there back and forth with the 16 of Travis Woodward. Woodward just getting around him and then just loses it in turn number 2. Hate to see that, especially with 2 laps remaining.
Well, it's going to give us a look at a restart. Before we get to that, the declaration cone, this segment brought to you by PRCBD. Swing by PRCBD in Arlington for all your CBD questions or needs. For people, pets, and more, go to prcbd.com and use the promo code RACE. It's the PRCBD sponsored car. Sitting in second here in this one. He's going to be on the inside of the front row in Lyndon Smith with Jimmy Absher on the outside of him as we're going to get a 3-lap shootout for the top spot.
So we'll see here the 16 of Travis Woodward on the low side in row number 2, the 99 of Jeff Henderson on the high side in row number 2 as they come out of turn number 4 down the front stretch. Green flag is out. 3 laps remaining here, and what a restart there by the 221 of Smith going low into turn 1 and 2 Absher now going to tuck behind as they come out of two. A little bit of contact there as they head down the backstretch. Lyndon Smith, though, pulling away just a little bit from the 26 of Jimmy Absher.
See, Smith has again made all of his ground up on the inside, and then he goes to the high side of 3 and 4, and the door opens right back up for Absher. It's been a little physical between the two of them. Lovins racing, back end slides. They're both going for a stroll in the grass, and we're going to get a new leader.
Oh my goodness, Jimmy Absher, Lyndon Smith into turn number 1, connect as we take a look at the flashback here. And they are coming into turn number 1. There is Lyndon Smith, the in-car audio and visual here. 221 coming around out of turn number 4 down the front stretch. Jimmy Absher on the inside as they come into turn number 1. Just about ready to make contact, and there it is, straight into the grass.
Wow, nothing you can do at that point in time if you're Lyndon. Absher gets in, overcooks it, contact made. A second look at the replay here for Smith as they come into the turn. Bam.
Oh, man.
Well, that changes things. We've had two different race leaders in the form of Jimmy Absher and Lyndon Smith. As here's the look from up top once again. Into the corner. We saw that happen before with Absher where the back end slid out. But the first time it happened, he was able to slide right across the nose of Smith. This time, Smith parallel with him getting into the corner and unavoidable. They're both going to the back of the field here. And Travis Woodward should have our lead as we come back to action, looking for his first career feature win. Talk about some serendipity and good luck going on here in the rain for Travis.
And, you know, that was what we saw before the last caution, the 16. Travis Woodward gets spun in turn number 3, has to go to the back of the field or nearly the back, but he was able, because of that decision cone, able to get in that row number 2 and right place, right time for the 16 of Travis Woodward.
And let's not ignore the fact that both Absher and Smith, if the cars are still going, are going to get a chance to pick up some spots on that decision cone themselves. Absher's going to duck up high. Smith will hang out down low, so we'll see where they end up sequencing. And it didn't look like they picked up much. Absher 6th, Smith 8th. So coming here to this 2-lap shootout. Travis Woodward's in the top spot, but again, anything can happen. We've got wet weather, we've got a decision cone, and we've got a first race of the year where guys are racing a little bit antsy.
And what a lot of action here. It's just been so much fun to watch this BECU mini stock main event as the green flag is out. Good restart there by the 16 of Travis Woodward. Like you said, going for his first win in this race here as the 99 of Jeff Henderson, trying to hang on to that second spot on the low side. We see on the high side the 27 of Jason Ingbaum. And we'll see here as we're getting nearly 3 wide with Jimmy Absher in the middle, just sneaking through. Gets into Gavin Belu, and he's going to go to the low side.
Somebody give Jimmy Absher a gold star for him. He has been the show coming back to front, sideways all over the place, as he's got second rolling down the back straightaway. But congratulations, coming out of 4, the first win for Travis Woodward. What a run for Travis, one of the truly good guys in the pit area. Second to Absher, third at the line. I think Gavin Belu ends up getting it. Wow, what a killer race, full of drama from start to back. I can't believe it.
Yeah, just a fantastic finish there as we take a look at the flashback here. And let's watch the 26 of Jimmy Absher right side by side with Gavin Belu. Belu goes high. He's now able to tuck down to the low side of, looks like the 27 of Ingbaum, but what a great job there.
Well, Gavin, that was a trip to watch. You made your way from the back to the front over and over again, and that beautiful finish there, beating the number 27 to the line. What did it take tonight?
I don't even know. Honestly, I just was so frustrated with going to the back 3 times and then having to make my way up. Jason is such a good driver, and he's just such a good driver. I don't know. I'm just speechless right now. I can't even talk. I'm so emotional. But I'd like to thank TransLabs, Cord and Engines, and the Absher family. They've been so nice to me this whole weekend, and yeah, it's just amazing.
Driver the number 12 with a brilliant last lap move, Gavin Belu. Who's up with you tonight?
This is my beautiful little daughter, my trophy girl. She always likes coming up here.
Now, you had a great car tonight, running side by side with Lyndon Smith. What was going through your mind as those battles went on between you two?
There was no reason to be bumping and racing. You know what I mean? I know it's a new car to him. It's a rear-wheel drive, but you know what I mean, getting taken out. You know what I mean, he's got a little learn, but you know what I mean, it's Rubbin's racing, and you know, I come from the back twice tonight, and my tires burned out. Luckily, Gavin turned me when I came in because my car wasn't turning, so I used him to bump off, and it worked out great for me, you know. So I'm proud of my finish opening night, second place in the rain, and I put on a good show for everybody, all my friends and family here tonight. And I got to thank my wife for After Build, Design and Build for You, NPM Welding and Fabrication, and Kurt with Kurt All Season Waterproof and Draining. They came on, and the only reason why my car is on the track tonight is because of their sponsorship. So big shout out and thank to them.
Driver of the number 26, Jimmy Absher, second place tonight. Consistency was the name of your game tonight. You were there, you stayed there, and when it mattered most, you led those laps and you took the win. What did it take tonight?
It took a lot. I mean, we came from the back twice. My son on the radios got me through it. Sorry, I'm a little emotional. It's been 15 years I've been waiting for this. It was just fun, a lot of fun.
You said you're emotional, it means a lot. 15 years to take it home here in opening night of 2023. Just give us a snippet. What is that like?
It's amazing. I can't wait till the rest of the season.
Who would you like to thank for this amazing performance out here tonight?
My whole family, Mike Marthaler, Lane Sunholm, all my sponsors, Brava Pizza, Moonshine Barbecue, Simon & Son Towing, FX Pro, Caliber Collision, and just everybody that's supported me.
He brings it home after 15 years. Travis Woodward wins opening night.
Well, that was killer.
Yes, indeed.
That was all kinds of fun. I don't know how you're going to top that, but you know what? We're going to top that. Stinger 8's time. Buzz in Stinger 8's coming up next here on Home Track Heroes. We're taking these same four-cylinder cars that we've seen already run on a road course. We've seen them run the circle track mini stock style, and now we're going to put them on the figure eights for what is going to be a absolute chaotic adventure. Now, this division dominated by Brandon Lindbergh last year. Lindbergh not here. That means field is wide open, and let's give you your starting lineup for our first Stinger 8 main event of the year. It's Ron Powers on the pole in the 4. Next to him is the 151 of Cody Weldon, sponsored by All Ply Roofing LLC.
And in row number 2, sponsored by B&R Drywall, it's the 102 of Randy Moffitt. On the outside, sponsored by Whitby Donuts, it's the 40 of Andrew Renders.
Michaela Larson's the 57, sponsored by my dad, Paul Peterson, and Mike Hathaway, car number 46, sponsored by Reppin' Welding and Rail.
Row number 4, the 78 of Kyle Shukar on the outside, sponsored by Papa's in Monroe, it's the 16 of Peyton Hopp.
And row number 5, Calvin Miller, saw him earlier, that blue with white number 49, Northwest Poly Services of Marysville sponsors him. Damon Claiborne, the Abendroth Equine, developing the horse and rider, number 43.
Final row, sponsored by JBR Racing, it's 18J of Jackson Beckel. On the outside, the 19 of Talon Kolar, sponsored by Ray's Espresso in Machias.
Kind of want to call Jackson Beckel the world's biggest Stinger 8 driver. However, if at any point in time we see Preston Brandt jump into a Stinger 8 this year, the kid's like 6'7". He's huge.
Preston Brandt is impressive,
he is
that's for sure.
Tall cup of tea, that's for sure. Green flag out, Stinger 8 time around the South Pole, and the beating and banging has already begun.
And we saw the 4 Ron Powers earlier on this evening as well, as Ron is now losing a few spots. Andrew Renders in the 40 out into the lead. The 46 of Mike Hathaway up into that second spot as they come around the turn.
It's smoking Mike Hathaway. Take a look as he's putting out the James Bond 007 smoke show, and he's got something hanging out the window. What in the heck do you got? He's had that for years, though. I need to get that actually identified.
I think it's so he can go in the carpool lanes when he drives home. You know, he has to go all the way down 405, so you got to get in that carpool lane.
It's the family Corolla that he's brought out to the Stinger 8 track, right?
Right.
He's actually threatening for the lead right now as they came through the North Pole, and he has got it. So he'll shuffle Renders back. Moffitt third in the 102, trying to get Renders as they go down south. Fourth, 57 of Larson, and then somebody's behind him. We'll find out in just a second.
And that's the 16 of Peyton Hopp. And Peyton Hopp Always great to see out here a former Hornet champion. Now making his way out in the Stinger 8 for the second year in a row as the 16 is Mike Hathaway in the 46, cruising through the intersection out into the lead with 2 laps down, 28 laps to go.
Big, strong move into the turn by the 102 of Moffitt, but couldn't make it connect as Renders got the car underneath him, accelerated to the right point. The field's starting to stretch out. We might get some intersection action here sooner rather than later. That is a big part of the fun here of the figure eights at Evergreen Speedway. Is the most dangerous intersection in the world. We got a car around. It's Larson, who was running up in 4th, spun out the wrong way on the South Pole.
So we'll see here the 57, Michaela Larson, trying to get turned around as we are under caution.
It has been a chaotic little back half of this show here. Lots of spin outs, caution flags, and stingers. We'll see that every once in a while. They got to turn right, they got to turn left. There's a lot of them. They're not afraid to beat and bang a little bit.
And, you know, maybe looks like the track starting to dry out just a little bit too, so just in time for the Buzz and Stinger 8 main event. But we've already seen a lot of action in the first couple of laps so far. Expect to see a lot more as we're head back to the track here to go under green here once again. Hopefully we have the 46 Mike Hathaway out in front, Randy Moffitt in the 102. On the outside is Andrew Renders, then back to the 16 of Peyton Hopp.
So this is what we call a Delaware-style restart. Single car out on point by himself, and then 2x2 stacked up in behind him. You'll see that in the Stinger 8 division, just one of the features that we have going on there. As Hathaway back in the lead, Moffitt 2, he's around Renders. Peyton Hopp sailing around the outside of the South Pole. He's got the inside line coming into the North Pole, and looks like he's secured 3rd.
I think we need Damon Claiborne to maybe win a couple of these races so he can buy some better numbers. That's the 43 car you see right behind now Peyton Hopp, but very difficult to tell that there's a 43 on that as he's on the outside now of Andrew Renders in the 40. But now we see Claiborne now right behind Peyton Hopp as we come around. There's the 43. It's a blue painter's tape. Nice touch there by the 43.
I think I sold him that painter's tape. Wow, I should have sold him more painter's tape.
Or some thicker one.
Oh, or something. I'll have him bring the car by the shop, and I'll lay that on a little bit thicker as we got a car facing the wrong way. Jackson Beckel is pointing towards the back straightaway. No?
That's Talon Kolar, looks like
right.
the 19.
Sorry.
Yeah, having some struggle there. And also at the same time, too, we saw the 40 of Andrew Renders that had to go a little bit wide there. So some issues there as we look back. Mike Hathaway out in front.
And we're going to take a timeout. We'll come back with the conclusion of the Stinger 8 main event right after this here on Home Track Heroes. Welcome back to Home Track Heroes here on the CW11. I am Caleb Hart. He is Greg Pyland, and we have just a couple of circuits done in our Stinger 8, the Buzz-In Stinger 8 A main event, the final main event of our Monroe Grocery Outlet opening night at Evergreen Speedway, and here on Home Track Heroes. Let's go back to the track. Let's back to action. The rapidly drying Evergreen Speedway finally, as Mother Nature is, taking some mercy on us late here in the evening. That's been nice.
All those wonderful tires out there drying off the track as we see once again that Delaware restart. Mike Hathaway out in front, the 16 of Peyton Hopp, and 102 of Randy Moffitt in that second row as green flag is out, and we are underway here once again with the passenger on board. Mike Hathaway still looking sharp into the North Pole area as Peyton Hopp slowing down just a little bit, trying to get back to the low side as they come out of turn number 2 in through towards the intersection. Peyton Hopp making an aggressive move, gets by Mike Hathaway. What a solid move on the inside through the intersection.
And bringing Jackson Beckel in there with him, am I right? Am I right? It might be, as he's going to sneak up and into the lead coming out of the North Pole. So Beckel making moves, Hopp together with Hathaway, and Hathaway pointing the wrong direction through the intersection. He goes from first to last in about, I don't know, third of a mile.
Not good there as Jackson Beckel, another person that maybe as the season goes on will decide if those numbers are going to be clear enough for everybody to read. But we got a black number 1, a red number 8, but that's 18J of Jackson Beckel. There's a 43 of Damon Claiborne side by side with Peyton Hopp, Randy Moffitt, and the 78 of Kyle Schukar battling back side by side as well. Great move there by Damon Claiborne to get in front of Peyton Hopp.
Not only are they thin numbers, but they're like little itty baby numbers. Those are like the tiniest numbers in the history of man, Damon. Come on, bud.
I'm going to need to get some glasses, I think. Holy smokes.
Those are spare parts, bud. Wow. All right. Well, back to the action. There's Peyton Hopp. We talked to him a little bit. The former Hornet champion, and Hopp's second full year of Stinger 8 racing picked up a feature win towards the tail end of last year. So he has been in victory lane. He has had some success. Now looking to replicate it as he is trying to chase down your race leader, amongst others.
So here we go with Mike Hathaway on board. Great another shot here by the 46 car, Mike Hathaway, as we cruise on through. On the other side, we're seeing Peyton Hopp getting a little bit loose there. And Jackson Beckel on the 18J just slips through. Great view there on the onboard as we saw the 18J of Jackson Beckel just get through.
One of the unique things about figure 8 racing is, again, you're making left and right hand turns, but you're also having to look to the right, which is a little bit different. You know, your typical circle track, you have mirrors, you have spotters, etc. Your own vision has to play a huge factor in figure 8 racing, to the point where they will take your typical full containment seat and actually cut down the headrest on the right-hand side so they can get more head rotation out of the right and get a look at those cars coming across to the intersection. Not a big deal in the South Pole when you run right into the tire, but you know. Wow. That was unexpected.
That just hit you, didn't it? Wow, look at that, my goodness.
I mean, that tire came out of nowhere.
It did.
I'm trying to be fair to Mike here, but it's like that tire just jumped out and went, hey, I'm here. Splat.
I'm assuming an official moved that just into the wrong spot. I don't think he would have hit that any other way.
No way. So here's where that right side vision matters, and it's coming off the North Pole, coming through the intersection where you have guys coming in for your right. You've got to be able to turn your head, or at least get your eyes just far enough to the right to see those oncoming cars. Well, your traditional full containment seat has a much longer right side headrest than it does left. So you have to go in to actually physically modify that if you're running figure 8. That way you can get your eyes over and see those cars coming from the South Pole, the intersection.
And not a better example of it than Jackson Beckel just sneaking through the intersection, as we see Kyle Shukar still giving a little bit of the business to Peyton Hopp. And look at Jackson Beckel. My goodness, just threading the needle there as he's trying to get around Cody Weldon in the 151. But man, a lot of action in this intersection as the 18J going to try and cruise through again. Not an issue there that time, but man, I'm not sure if you can get any luckier, and you know who that reminds me a lot of? Brandon Lindbergh. You used to see him thread the needle. Jackson Beckel taking one note out of his book.
This has been a great battle for second as you're watching the 40 of Andrew Renders and the 43 of Damon Claiborne really get at it. Side by side in the intersection when there's traffic is awfully scary. Side by side with no traffic, not so bad, as Claiborne putting the moves on Renders and looking for the runner-up spot.
So still the 43, Damon Claiborne in that third spot, Andrew Renders in the second spot. As we go back to your leader, the 18J of Jackson Beckel through the intersection cleanly once again, as we are approaching the halfway point of this race, and we have some issues there, and it's going to be Michaela Larson in the 57, 3 wide with Mike Hathaway for just a moment, Andrew Renders, and also the 43 of Damon Claiborne as Mike Hathaway sneaking through there, but great action there in the South Pole turn as we continue on, and it looks like just over halfway through now with 15 laps remaining, and Jackson Beckel coming through the intersection once again.
Claiborne used that patch of traffic to get past Renders and into second. Man, he's like a half track back from Beckel at the moment. It was just setting a wicked pace. He's got the slower car of Larson following him and through. Hathaway in the 46 is slower traffic as well, technically, although Hathaway's setting a really good pace, trying to unlap himself at this point after that, oops that happened at the intersection earlier.
We saw that beautiful onboard video shot of the connection with the tire there as Beckel comes through just in front of the 151 of Cody Weldon. And there's Hathaway once again, still holding off the 43 of Damon Claiborne, as you said, still making some great moves, even though he is a lapped car at this point. Back to Jackson Beckel in the 18J coming up into turn number 3 in the South Pole area here. Going to be 12 laps remaining in tonight's Buzz In Stinger 8 main event.
And finishing this out as we march through this segment brought to you by Speedway Chevrolet and Speedway Chevrolet and RV Center in Monroe. From customized trucks, lifted trucks, work trucks, and Speedway Chevrolet can locate the truck that fits you best. Speedway Chevrolet and RV Center also wants your trade and will buy or consign your vehicle or RV and take the hassle out of selling it all on your own. That is Speedway Chevrolet.
So just out in front of Peyton Hopp is the 18J of Jackson Beckel. Beckel with a substantial lead. Now we look back at Mike Hathaway in the 46, the 43 of Damon Claiborne. Caution is out. So we have some issues here out on the track. The 18J of Jackson Beckel, 12 laps remaining.
Cody Weldon, the 151, is the car that brought out the caution flag. You can see him limping through the intersection. As we're going to take a second, we'll jump back here into the broadcast booth here on Home Track Heroes on CW11. A little bit of everything in this one. Beckel's been dominant out front. That race for second has been fantastic between Renders and Claiborne. Those two veterans of the division, they're really getting after it.
Absolutely, and this is the exact same, or the exact thing that Damon Claiborne wants to see. We have a caution that's coming out. Now he's going to be able to catch back up to the 18J of Jackson Beckel. We'll see it as we head right back out to the track here for that Delaware restart once again.
And this is actually going to play out well for Beckel, who's got Hathaway, who is not on the lead lap, tucked right in there. So he's going to have Renders back a row from him. That really allows Claiborne to focus on the attack of Beckel coming to the green flag.
And great jump there as the 43 of Damon Claiborne getting by the 46 of Mike Hathaway. Michaela Larson trying to work to the inside as well. But it's still going to be Andrew Renders who's in that third spot. Michaela Larson, another lap car. As we come through Mike Hathaway once again, there's not a tire there, so
no.
Great job avoiding that, but we'll see if Hathaway's going to be able to get things going once again without a yellow. It looks like we're still green. Jackson Beckel still holding off the 43 of Damon Claiborne, but now Claiborne, nobody impeding his progress as he's trying to catch up to that 18J.
Mike is not having the greatest race as far as results go, but man, he got a lot of quality TV time, right?
Indeed.
I don't know if that was the goal, but certainly it's a nice side bonus. There is Beckel, Claiborne, Renders. Renders getting a little bit of pressure coming up. Calvin Miller's had a good race. He's picked his way up into position number 4. That's Miller. Different car that he's running in the Stinger 8 versus the Hornet that you saw earlier. So, big car operation from Calvin here in competition tonight.
Jackson Beckel out of turn number 4 across the start-finish line. Now single-digit laps remaining as we see Beckel just coming into the backside of the 151 of Cody Weldon. And there's another shot here of Andrew Renders and the 49 of Calvin Miller. Renders still in that third spot, holding off the 49 as we see them come around the turn. And great job there by the 40 of Andrew Renders, holding off Calvin Miller. Peyton Hopp's still in the mix as well.
Might get a look at something interesting again as we get another viewpoint of the Renders and the Miller car. As I took a look at it, Renders still has the side view mirrors on that car. And I'm not talking like a nice purchased one, but like factory stock side view mirrors. See those things? Yeah, they're hanging out there. Whereas Miller, no side view mirrors on that car. So everything that he is getting knowledge-wise, what guys are doing behind him is coming from the rear view mirror in the car. Just a subtle difference in car construction between the two.
Well, it's a classy look too, because you can tell that he painted those rear view mirrors the same color as his car, so it just blends in almost. You can't even see it.
That same like gunmetal gray
That's
/ like 3-season-old blue.
Nice pinstripe too, as we look at the 49 Calvin Miller trying to get side by side with, it looks like the 40 of Andrew Renders and the 18J. There's Andrew Renders still holding off, but Kyle Shukar side by side with Calvin Miller. Now there's a little bit of battle there between the 49 and the 78 as we see Shukar trying to get into that top 4, top 5 here as Jackson Beckel passes by the 151 once again.
Good run by Shukar. He is not afraid to muscle up and physical up that race car, so we'll keep an eye out. He's got a chance for a podium here late. He might take full advantage of it as Miller has gone from side by side with Renders to tuck back in behind him. Meanwhile, hey, Mike Hathaway again, also pulling up. Granted, he's a couple of laps down, but he could be fun in that battle, that's for sure.
Good indeed. So here we go. Once again, the battle. We see the 40 of Andrew Renders holding on to that third spot, the 49 Calvin Miller. There's Jackson Beckel going through cleanly once again, but that race for that third spot, the final podium spot, heating up as we have 4 laps to go, make that 3.5 at this point. Jackson Beckel once again slowly coming through, but he had to time it right just behind the 18 or the 16 of Peyton Hopp.
He actually kind of physically saw the car dive in the front end as he got onto the brakes just to halt the momentum enough to split the difference. We'll see if he does it again. This time smooth all the way through. Jackson Beckel has been nearly flawless in looking to take his first feature win of 2023.
So Shukar still behind the 49 of Calvin Miller. Calvin Miller in 4th currently behind the 40 of Andrew Renders as they come out of turn number 2 heading towards the intersection. So Renders doing a great job here, still holding off the 49 and the 78. As we see they're behind the 57 Michaela Larson that's limping around across the start-finish line. 2 laps to go here in this Buzz in Stinger 8 main event.
You know, he'd want to finish a couple of spots up from where he is, but Renders lots to build on here in this main. He's had a very solid A feature in the 40 cars. We're down to just one more trip around, 2 more passes through the intersection for Jackson Beckel in the 18. Clean the first time through. We'll go back to 3rd, 4th, and 5th for just a look.
We haven't talked about the 43 Damon Claiborne very much, but he's just cruising along with Jackson Beckel. The exciting part right here is that race for 3rd as we see your leader Jackson Beckel in the 18J coming through the intersection once again. into 3 and 4 in the South Pole. He's going to take the checkered flag and win this first of the year Buzz-In Stinger 8 main event. Here comes the 43 of Damon Claiborne, and look at that move by the 78 of Kyle Shukar, passing by Andrew Renders and Calvin Miller to take third.
Miller got into the back of Renders. Red Sea parted, and Shukar walks through. Let's talk to him and your other two down with Derek at the podium.
You had quite the run out there tonight, including that amazing finish. Put the bumper to the back of the 49 to make your way to that third place spot. Run us through that last lap.
I knew he was going to put the bumper to the 40 car, so I put the bumper to him and just shoved him a little bit, not too much, and then I just tucked in and got a third.
Now the 78 car, a little bit new to you. Do you intend to keep out here for our Stinger 8 class?
Oh yeah, full season. Gonna go try for a championship.
And who would you like to thank for your performance out here tonight?
B&R Drywall, B&Appy, carpet cleaning, my Uncle Bob, my dad. There's a bunch of people. I haven't remembered them yet.
Driver the number 78, third place tonight, that's Kyle Shukar. Now you had a run out here tonight, and you let Zach Bristol borrow that 07 car. He took that to a podium in the Hornets. You take this car to a podium here in the Stingers. How's that feel?
Pretty good. I'm a proud car owner of that 07 car, so it was nice to see him come out and kick some butt in the rain, and I had a lot of fun during that main event. It was a lot more wet and cold than I thought it would be. With the rain stopping, I was hoping the track would dry out a little. I kind of threw like an intermediate setup at it, and it just wasn't there. But yeah, good job to Jackson. He raced one heck of a race. He was real fast tonight, so hopefully we'll get to do some more racing together, but hopefully on a dry track next time.
Who would you like to thank for your performance out here tonight?
My one and only sponsor, and also my number one person in my life, my wife, Michelle Abendroth, and her business, Abendroth Equine, developing the horse and rider.
Driver the number 43, second place tonight, Damon Claiborne. Taking the 18J to victory lane, how does it feel to bring it home?
Feels pretty great. Kind of wish he was in the other car, but I don't know, this one feels pretty great.
You drove that real well out here tonight. Can you walk us through what it's like to wheel a Stinger in this condition?
Never go full throttle and don't really use throttle at all. That's all I got to say.
And who would you like to thank for your performance tonight?
Number one, Mike Marshall, JBR, Dave Riddell for staying in the shop till 1:30 last night. Everyone that came up and helped me, Genesis Heating and Cooling, and yeah.
Driver of the number 18J, Jackson Beckel is a race winner.
Well, Jackson Beckel looking spiffy, new black with orange K1 driver suit. I know where he got that. Guy looks sharp, and now you look good, you feel good, you race good, you're in victory lane on opening night, huh?
You know, not a bad race there. That was such an exciting end to this evening, too. Seeing Jackson Beckel having such a clean race, but a lot of action towards the end with Kyle Shukar sneaking into that last podium spot in third.
There was something happening across the board here today on Home Track Heroes. This is a great opening show. Great way to start our season for 2023. Really looking forward to it. We've got all kinds of fun storylines to follow already right out of the chute.
Absolutely, yeah. And like you said, lots of other great action. One that other comes to mind is Jimmy Absher at the end of that BECU mini stock race, just coming through and be able to come up into that second place spot. So a lot of fun here. And like you said, it's so great to kick off this 2023 race season. Can't wait for the rest of the season.
Early contender for Pass of the Year. Well, if you want to see Jimmy Absher try something like that again, your next chance to see it live and in person is going to come up on Saturday, April the 15th, as Absher and the mini stocks will be back in action along with the Hornets, the Outlaw Figure 8s, the Stinger 8s, and our season debut of the Pro Late models. That's coming up Saturday, April 15th. Next week here on Home Track Heroes, we're going to give you something completely different. The Street Stocks are in action. The Super Stock Figure 8s are in action. The Legends will be here. The Youth Hornets will be here. And if you behave yourself, we might even race the buses. That sounds like fun. Greg, a lot of fun today. Thank you for joining us. Hope we get you back more than a few times here over the course of the year.
Absolutely. It's always a great pleasure for me to sit with you, Caleb, and, always fun to watch a little bit of NASCAR racing out here at Evergreen Speedway.
That's right. We are the best of the best you're going to see in the Northwest here at Evergreen Speedway. For everybody behind the scenes, our awesome camera crew this week, Greg, Derek, the production, and, of course, all of our drivers for really bringing this thing to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're back next week with even more as you've tuned in to Home Track Heroes from Evergreen Speedway live here on the CW11. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for watching Evergreen Speedway's Home Track Heroes on CW11. Join us next week for more great racing from Evergreen Speedway.